Stand by. Joining us now is the now, I guess, former White House Chief of Staff, Reince Priebus. Reince, thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, how are you, Wolf?
I'm glad you're joining us from the White House. First of all, I've got a lot of questions for you, but how are you doing right now?
I'm doing great. I just had a good conversation with General Kelly and the President, and I think you may know I've been obviously talking to the President for a few days about this, and ultimately I formally resigned yesterday. And you know, the President was great. He wanted to include me in figuring out how and who would be a great successor and a good Chief of Staff. I think General Kelly is a brilliant pick. And I just, like I said, talked to him, talked to the President. We'll be working on a transition here for a couple of weeks together with General Kelly, starting on Monday morning. So this is not like a situation where there's a bunch of ill will feelings. This is, I think, good for the President. I think it's smart for him to pick General Kelly, and I think that things are going to be run very well.
You say you resigned yesterday. Tell us why. Why did you make that important decision to resign?
Well, it was something that I've always talked to the President about, which is, and I've always said to him, and he always agreed with me, anytime either one of us think that we need to make a change or move in a different direction, let's just talk about it and get it done. And so I think the President thought about that, and we talked about it yesterday, and I resigned and he accepted my resignation. But this is about the President. It's about moving his agenda forward. I think he's made a smart decision with General Kelly, and I think he's going to do a great job. And I'm looking forward to the future. One other thing, I'm always going to be a Trump fan. I'm on Team Trump, and I look forward to helping him achieve his goals and his agenda for the American people.
But why did you resign? I'm still trying to understand. I understand that you told the President you wanted to resign. He accepted your resignation yesterday. But why? What were there a series of issues, or was there one thing that came up and and you decided, listen, you know what, I no longer can do this?
No, look, I think the President wanted to go a different direction. I support him in that. And like I said a couple weeks ago, I said the President has a right to change directions. The President has a right to hit a reset button. I think it's a good time to hit the reset button. I think he was right to hit the reset button, and I think that it was something that I think the White House needs. I think it's healthy, and I support him in it.
Was he not happy with the direction you were setting?
No, but look, I mean, I think bringing fresh face, I think bringing fresh people is a good thing. So look, he has the best political instincts. Hang on a second.
Yeah.
He knows, I think, intuitively when things need to change. I've seen it now for a year and a half on this wild ride with the President that I loved being a part of. But he intuitively determined that it was time to do something differently, and I think he's right.
But it's only been 6 months, not very long. When you say he wanted to do things differently, tell us precisely what he said to you, why he wants to do things differently, and why you concluded that didn't include you.
No, look, I'm not going to get into that personal stuff. The President is a professional, and I'm a professional, and professional people don't discuss private conversations in public. But what I will tell you is this President has the hearts of all Americans at the top of his mind at all times. He wants to do what's right for the American people. And I think making changes in the White House is common, but I also think that they can be very important. And I think that this is a good appointment for the White House, and I think the General will do a great job.
When was the first inkling that you had that your time as the White House Chief of Staff was over?
I'm not going to get into that, Wolf. Look, I have a very close relationship with the President. I'm going to continue to have a close relationship with the President. And out of respect for him, you know, I'm not going to get into our own private conversations, but I'll just put it at this. I think change is good. He wanted to go a different direction. I support him in that. And I look forward to working with General Kelly over the next couple weeks.
I know you met with your staff, your senior staff, earlier this morning before you went with the President up to Long Island. Did you tell your staff that you were leaving?
No, we were doing a business meeting in the morning. Everyone gave their reports, and then we were off to Long Island in New York to talk about MS-13.
What was the impact? The new White House Communications Director, Anthony Scaramucci, you saw the interview he granted Ryan Liz in the New Yorker magazine. He called you some awful things, including a paranoid schizophrenic. He said your days were numbered. He said you were about to leave. At one point, he said Reince Priebus would resign soon, and that he expected Priebus to launch a campaign against him. What was your reaction when you saw that interview?
No reaction, because I'm not going to respond to it. I'm not going to get into the mud on those sorts of things. Look, the president and I had an understanding. We've talked about this many times, and we ultimately decided that yesterday was a good day and that we would work together. And I think that General Kelly is a great pick. So I'm not going to get into the weeds on that. I support what the president did. And obviously, I think it's a good thing for the White House.
But why were you opposed to Anthony Scaramucci even getting a job in the White House? You saw how bitter he was, how angry he was at you in that interview.
I'm not getting into that, Wolf. Look, it's over. I'm moving on. Support the president, and I support John Kelly and the president's agenda. So that's all you're going to get from me on that. I'm not going to get into the individual, personal stuff.
He was also very angry at Steve Bannon, the White House chief strategist. I can't even read the words he uttered to Ryan Lizza about Steve Bannon. But you think he could stay in the White House with Scaramucci, now the communications director?
That's going to be up to John Kelly, but I will say that Steve's doing a great job. He is a brilliant guy who only cares about the president's agenda. He thinks about it 24 hours a day, never quits. He's a great asset to this president and a dear friend. So my hat's off to Steve Bannon.
Can you just clear up the other charge? It was a very bitter charge that Scaramucci leveled against you, that you're a leaker, and that you're really not that loyal to the president. You've got your own agenda. He made some bitter accusations against you, specifically the leaking. Are you the leaker in the White House?
That's ridiculous. Wolf, come on. Give me a break. I'm not going to get into his accusations.
Why not respond to him?
Because I'm not going to, because it doesn't honor the president. I'm going to honor the president every day. I'm going to honor his agenda, and I'm going to honor our country. And I'm not going to get into all of this personal stuff. So.
Is there a leaking problem in the White House based on what you've seen?
Yeah, I think that General Kelly should see if he can get to the bottom of it and figure it out. But obviously, unnamed sources are something that's been problematic, and I wish him well, and I'm going to try to help him. But obviously, that's going to be on his plate, and I hope he can get to the bottom of it.
Scaramucci is suggesting the FBI should get involved in that investigation. You agree with him on that?
I'm not going to respond to that. Look, this is about the president, Wolf. I've answered your questions. I support his decision to hire John Kelly, and I'm looking forward to the future.
What is your future? I want to get to that, but I also want to get your specific advice for John Kelly, who's the incoming White House Chief of Staff.
Well, look, I mean, God is good, and everything works to good in the end. I believe that. I'm not worried about that. I care about my wife and my kids. That's what I care about most. That's what I live for. So I live for God, my family, my kids, and I know everything's going to be just fine. And as far as John Kelly, he's going to be great. Keeping things organized, keeping everyone in their lane, controlling flow of information in and out of the Oval Office. Those are all challenges to a chief of staff. And I think he's going to do a wonderful job.
I know you must be very disappointed. You really wanted to see repeal and replacement of Obamacare. You're going out now without having succeeded in that. We all saw what happened overnight. How disappointing is that to you?
Well, it is disappointing, but I don't think it's over yet, Wolf. So I'm hopeful that the Republicans can still come together before reconciliation is over. And I wish them well to do it, and I'll be a part of trying to help make that happen if I can. And again, I'll always be on the team.
What about the criticism that the president has leveled against the Attorney General of the United States, Jeff Sessions? How uncomfortable did that make you?
Look, you know, Jeff's a great guy, but the president is disappointed. and I'm not going to get into that one either. So I'm only here to tell you that it's been a great privilege to be Chief of Staff. I support the President in choosing John Kelly, and I wish him well, and I wish everyone in the West Wing all of God's blessings.
What's your proudest accomplishment over these past 6 months as the White House Chief of Staff?
I think getting everyone together. I think that moving this West Wing, I think, in the right direction. I think obviously accomplishing all of the executive orders, the TPP, the VA accomplishments, the things that the President talks about all the time, the most bills in 6 months, the executive orders, the agenda of this President. It's something that I think everyone can be proud of.
What's your biggest disappointment?
Well, look, I mean, I wish health care would have passed, but I don't think it's over yet, Wolf. I think we can still get there.
Well, talk a little bit about that. How do you get there? Because you don't have the votes. There's a 52-48 majority the Republicans have in the Senate. Clearly not enough.
Well, they have to keep working, Wolf. I mean, they have to roll up their sleeves and keep working. They have to come up with another amendment. I think that Lindsey Graham's got an amendment. I think they have to work on Lisa Murkowski and see if we can get her on the right side of the healthcare debate. I don't think this is over. I think they can get this done. And obviously, coming together as a party is something that I think we've had too much difficulty doing. And having a governing majority is something that's been problematic. You can have a majority, but if you don't have a governing majority, you can't get things done.
Why not work with the Democrats and come up with a compromise, work with some moderate Democrats, work to try to fix, improve the problems of the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, and not necessarily completely repeal it?
Look, I don't think the Democrats want to work with us on anything.
They say they want to work with you.
Right, and you look at the delays of the cabinet appointments, you look at all of the delays of the nominations. They're debating our cabinet secretaries for 30 hours and then voting for them, 90 to 10. This is not a party, and unfortunately Senator Schumer hasn't been the type of leader to want to compromise on the most basic things. And so I think the idea that somehow Democrats are going to just come together and give us a few votes on something here or there, I think it's fantasy. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't think it's important to try, so I'll give you that. But obviously the Republicans have to try harder. I
want to be very fair to you, Reince. You and I have known each other for a long time. I just want to be clear for our viewers. Did the President formally ask you to resign?
No, I resigned and he accepted it.
And that conversation was just simply like that? He didn't try to talk you out of it?
No, we talked about it. You're confusing something. We talk all the time about this subject. Anytime we want to go a different direction, either one of us, we talk about it. So, look, he deserves credit for all of these accomplishments that he's had over the last 6 months. I don't think anyone realizes how much he's gotten done. I support him in making sure that the American people see and realize the work that he's done. I think we could do better here in making sure that people realize that and see it. He deserves it. He's been a great president, and I look forward to continuing to help him.
I just want to be precise. You spoke often with the president about possibly resigning?
No, we just talk about the fact that both of us have to be happy with where we're at, and he obviously wanted to make a change, and I offered my resignation, and he agreed, and we moved on. He accepted it.
And that was that. And did you recommend John Kelly, or did he throw out that name to you?
No, we talked about a few different people together, and he thought John Kelly would be the #1 pick. I thought it was a fantastic choice. I look forward to working with him.
So what about next for you? I remember there was some speculation you might become ambassador to Greece or something along those lines. Any consideration of that? Any thought of that?
No, that's not going to happen. I think that I'm going to take a little vacation, spend some time with my wife and kids, and enjoy the future and continue to be supportive.
Last question to you as we go forward, and you've been very, very kind, and you're very generous in spending some time with this first interview. Was there one favorite moment that you want to look back on these last 6 months that will always stay with you and be reflective of your time as the White House Chief of Staff?
Well, look, quite frankly, the first day we walked into the West Wing on business, and we walked into the Oval Office and we signed the first executive order, and just walking in that door and just feeling the majesty of the Oval Office and seeing the president sit at his desk and sign that document, it's a feeling, that first raw feeling that you get that's so special. It was a privilege, it was an honor, and I look forward to continuing to help.
Reince Priebus, the now former White House, soon-to-be former White House Chief of Staff, thanks so much for joining us. You're always welcome to join us here in the Situation Room.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Reince Priebus, appreciate it very much. Let's get some reaction. Mike Rogers, first to you. What do you think?
Very classy. I think he means it when he says he wants to continue to be supportive of the president. Clearly, there was dysfunction in the White House. Knowing Reince, he probably came to the conclusion this was best for everybody to go in a different direction. And for months, me included, have been saying you either need to put Reince as chief of staff or reconfigure the place. And I think that's exactly what he articulated.
Ryan Lizzo.
You know, there's a lot of issues he just didn't want to get into. He kept saying, you know, I don't want to talk about that. He very clearly did not want to return fire to Anthony Scaramucci, although the few things that he was willing to say about that suggested that you know, he was continues to not be such a great Scaramucci fan. I think his main message was to support Kelly, to tell everyone that he supports this choice. But it's clear that the president lost confidence in him at some point. He recognized that and decided they needed to part ways. But I think there are a lot of details left to be learned about exactly what happened here. But the one thing, when you really pressed him on Scaramucci, the one thing where he was he didn't want to talk about it much. He didn't want to return fire, but you could tell he found the whole thing distasteful.
Yeah, he thought it was beneath the presidency, beneath the White House, and he didn't want to get into that game. He was clearly very bitter at Scaramucci without saying it in those words, but you could see the bitterness sort of seep through. Rebecca Berg, what came through to you?
Well, I was really interested in the discussion you had of Reince's legacy or lack thereof. I mean, you could tell how disappointed he seemed and sounded that healthcare did not get done under his watch. And when he was discussing sort of the ins and outs of where Republicans went wrong and what they could have done differently, it didn't seem like he had an answer to that question. And as chief of staff, you need to be able to go to Capitol Hill, solve those tough problems, get the president's agenda through, and Reince fell short there. And he seems to know.
You've covered the President Trump from day one during the campaign as well. What stood out for you?
I think that's really what you would expect from an exit interview from Reince Priebus. He didn't want to say anything negative about the administration or fault them for anything that didn't go according to their plan. And I thought it was very classy of him to not stoop to Scaramucci's level by saying, if you're returning fire on all of those things, those allegations that Scaramucci made against him, to Ryan Lizzo saying that he was a leaker and that he leaked details as small as a dinner that the president was having. And I think that says a lot about Reince.
I think the astonishing thing, I agree with you, it was classy not to return fire. I think the astonishing thing is what the president thinks of that. And clearly the president made a decision here that he likes the approach of someone like Scaramucci, not someone like Reince, who is this sort of Midwesterner, above it all. Classy in that interview. I don't think Classy would describe Scaramucci's comments this week, and he's the one that's surviving.
And Reince, just in that exit interview, talked more about policy and the Trump agenda than Scaramucci did in his very lengthy interviews the other day, which is the job of a comms director. So I think that says a lot about who's focusing on what.
And
we're going to continue to
not brass knuckles.
Yeah, we're going to continue to follow the breaking news, and there's a lot of breaking news. But that's it for me. I'm Wolf Blitzer. Thanks very much for watching.